North Korea, the infamous Hermit Kingdom. North Korea has built a reputation for being the only current country that still uses Stalinistic principles to govern its people. North Korea is eerily similar to Oceania in numerous ways. It has multitudes of propaganda, most of its citizens live in poverty, there is constant surveillance, strict regulations on dating, and thousands of forced labor camps. All of these add up to create a terrifying reality of control, fear, and starvation. Propaganda is used to bypass logical thinking and connect certain imagery to a certain feeling, whether it is adoration, hate, or fear. One of the many similarities between North Korea and 1984 is its use of propaganda. In North Korea, it is used to remind people of their devotion towards Kim Jong-un and Kim Jong-il. Propaganda is also used to make people hate America and South Korea because they have been taught to believe that we are at war with them. Propaganda is used in many ways in 1984. It is used to strike fear into its citizens and warn them of the outside world. It is also used to reinforce their love of Big Brother. When Winston sees a poster of Big Brother, he remarks how it gazed down from every commanding corner. The cult-like adoration of Big Brother is similar to the adoration of Kim Jong-un and Kim Jong-il. During the Hate Week, a woman flung herself forward and with a tremulous murmur that sounded like "my savior," she extended her arms towards the screen. In North Korea, one man describes the attitude towards their leader, stating, "It's like a religion. From birth you learn about the Kim family, learn that they are gods. You must be absolutely obedient to the Kim family. The Kim family uses terror to keep people scared, and that makes it impossible to stage any kind of social gathering, let alone an uprising." To North Korea, America is seen as the ultimate enemy. North Koreans believe that the Korean War started because America invaded Korea and enslaved the people of South Korea to turn South Korea into a giant military base so that it could someday conquer the whole of Korea. The U.S. is often used as a scapegoat, similar to Emmanuel Goldstein. The U.S. is often seen as the root of all problems in North Korea. For instance, North Koreans believe that the reason for a shortage of food is because of rationing from the war against America, and not lack of resources, and the result of having one of the world's worst economies. North Koreans know remarkably little about the outside world, and the outside world knows remarkably little about North Korea. This can mostly be attributed to North Korea's incredibly strict immigration and emigration policies. No one can leave North Korea unless sanctioned by the government, and leaving North Korea without permission is seen as treason, which can land you in a forced labor camp. The only people who are sent out of North Korea are usually officials sent to meet or negotiate with other officials of other countries. The only people who are let into the country are humanitarians, investors, business managers, and tourists. Tourists in North Korea are given incredibly strict rules as to where to go, how to behave, and what not to take pictures of, and who to talk to. Some tourists reported feeling like the whole experience was staged and that their freedom was severely limited. In North Korea, the standard of living is one of the worst in the world. Thousands of people die from starvation each year because of food shortages. Most of the country lives in run-down homes, slums, or are homeless. We see similar problems in 1984. There is a shortage of food because of rationing, and so people are forced to stretch what is given to them or get food from the free market. When Winston returns home, he describes the gritty dust, smell of boiled cabbage and old rag mats, and how, at present, the electric current was cut off during daylight hours. The only people who have nice homes are the members of the inner party. In North Korea, the only people who have nice homes are the high-up government officials and businessmen who usually live on the innermost parts of Pyongyang. In North Korea, about half its population of 24 million live in extreme poverty. This is probably because North Korea has one of the worst economies in the world. Its annual GDP is $1,800, which ranks it 197th in the world. Those in poverty don't have access to running water, flush toilets, or heating. Most homes are heated by open fireplaces. The homes that do have electricity only have it for a few hours a day due to unreliability. At night, the power is completely shut off. There are two separate police forces. One is the ordinary police. They deal with legal crimes like murder, assault, property disputes, etc. The other organization is the State Security Department, or commonly known as the Secret Police. The Secret Police handles spies and political crimes like treason and anti-government behavior. All of the members of both the secret police and the ordinary police are usually high-ranking members of the party. Surveillance is used by the government to scare people away from rebellion and to catch political criminals. CCTV cameras are the main tool used by the government for the purpose of surveillance. North Korea has about 102,000 CCTV cameras as of 2013, and that number has only risen since. The cameras cost about $6.22 million. Some cameras are put in urban communities, while a large number of them are used to monitor the border. North Korea is infamous for its harsh punishments, although North Koreans refuse to acknowledge the existence of these camps. In 1984, the Ministry of Love is comparable to a North Korean prison camp. When Winston is caught, he hears about the forced labor camps to which most of the prisoners expected to be sent. While Winston is in the Ministry of Love, he endures many forms of torture, such as beatings. He was beaten until he could hardly stand, then flung like a sack of potatoes onto the stone floor of the cell. Starvation, the dull pain in his belly never went away. He thought only of the pain itself, and of his desire for food, and psychological torture. There was violent convulsions of nausea inside him, and he almost lost consciousness. Everything had gone black. For an instant he was insane, a screaming animal. These sentencing for crimes are usually harsher than one would think. For instance, Otto Warmbier, an American college student who visited North Korea, was convicted of attempting to steal a propaganda poster. He was sentenced to 15 years in a labor camp. There was also 3-generation sentencing. This is when someone commits a usually political crime and is sentenced to lifetime in prison. Additionally, their children and additional children they have at the camp, and the next generation of children, are all sentenced to life in prison. Prisoners were forced to stay with 40 or so other people in a room meant for 20. A lot of prison camps were previous holding places for animals, so prisoners are forced to stay in small cages where you can barely sit. People were forced to stand for extended periods until they would collapse from exhaustion. Deliberate starvation is also used as a means to control prisoners. This has resulted in millions of deaths. The food that they are given is small and barely, if at all, edible. Public executions are also commonplace. One man describes how the guards forced prisoners to throw rocks at the body and left it hanging there for a week until the birds had pecked at it so much it was beyond recognition. Many prisoners were forced to dispose of bodies. One man described how they were put in a room for vermin and insects to feed on. Inside the country, perceptions are changing, particularly with the younger generations. They are beginning to realize that their own country is not the same as the rest of the world. Therefore, a possible solution is for the citizens of North Korea to lose faith in the Kim dynasty and possibly revolt, overthrow the government, or place someone in favor of democracy in charge. In an article by James Konkoa, he makes a solution to the nuclear threats that North Korea is making. He says that we need to accept that a totally denuclearized future is unrealistic. He stresses that we need to work on building diplomatic relationships with Kim Jong-un. This could hopefully deter him from nuclear warfare. Once nuclear warfare is no longer a threat, then steps can be made towards stabilizing North Korea. Once North Korea becomes less nuclearized, we could help the economy get on the right path, with more trade deals, which would help with mass food shortages and help with the overall standard of living. This is where the cultural solution comes into play. With a leader that is more empathetic of democracy, steps can be made to fix the incarceration systems and reduce surveillance. Hopefully these reforms will lead to a better future.